Some years whisper, 2026 roars. The fire horse rides in with hooves of opportunity and a mane of sudden momentum. And for Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, that roar will feel like a call to choose. Not every door opens at once. Not every risk is wise. But the year is marked by a kind of combustible invitation. Act with courage and couple that courage with discipline. Do that, and the match you strike can light a new life. Quick note before we begin. This forecast is for guidance and entertainment, not professional financial, medical, or legal advice. Consider consulting a qualified professional for decisions in those areas. Here's what you'll get in this video. A cinematic look at the fire horse archetype and what it means energetically. A deep, practical forecast for Aries, Taurus, and Gemini across finances, career, relationships, and health. Timing windows to watch, and clear tactical steps you can take to convert the year's energy into real progress. If this is speaking to you, go ahead and hit subscribe. Stick around because the timing cues and the tactical takeaways you'll hear next deserve attention. Aries. Stability arrives, but only those who pair courage with discipline keep it. The horseshoe of 2026 hangs over Aries like a beacon. Steadying forces creep in even as the fire horse stimulates motion. For a sign that thrives on forward movement, this year offers a rare paradox, the opportunity to lock momentum into structure. Think of it as landing a charge on firm ground. The excitement is real, but the prize is the one who channels it into systems that last. Financial outlook. Early 2026 brings stabilization. After a period of sporadic gains or unpredictable cash flow, January through March looks like a time when previously fragile streams solidify. You may find unexpected inflows, not lottery tickets, but smaller recurring sources, a contract renewed, a client returning, a side project beginning to pay. These funds are the raw material. The work now is to turn them into a reserve. By late spring, March into May, the fire horse energy amplifies risk appetite. Opportunities that look flashy will show up, a new income idea, a bold partnership proposition, or the chance to convert creative output into a monetizable product. Those ideas can be rewarding if you treat them like experiments rather than all-or-nothing bets. Consider converting one promising but untested idea into a low-cost pilot. Test, measure, then scale. That sequence will protect your gains and build confidence. A financial caution to keep in mind. Impulsive spending and jumping into major purchases without a contingency plan can undercut long-term stabilization. The fire horse encourages bold moves, but for Aries, the balance is to couple that boldness with a budget, an emergency fund, and modest contingency assumptions. When bigger chances appear in September-October, your earlier reserve will be what gives you leverage.
Career and influence. Visibility and partnerships define the professional arc for Aries in 2026. The early months stabilize your base. By late spring and into summer, recognition is likely if you've been consistent. Projects that were quietly simmering could be the exact work that attracts attention. Network openings appear in two forms. Formal alliances that bring structure, think collaborative projects, advisory roles, and informal visibility boosts. Features, talks, social recognition. If you're an entrepreneur or freelancer, May through July looks favorable for translating creative solutions into paid opportunities. The fire horse rewards unconventional thinking. A new format, a different pricing model, or an unexpected collaboration may produce outsized results. Still, influence is more sustainable when paired with systems, contracts that protect you, a clear portfolio, and routines that let you follow through on increased demand. Watch for late August into October as a period where authority and responsibility may expand. A promotion, a leadership invitation, or a role that asks you to hold more of the decision-making could arrive. With that comes a test. Can you keep moving at your instinctive pace while also holding others accountable? The answer is yes, if you design processes that scale your energy rather than simply draining it. Relationships and emotional life. 2026 is a year of renewal for Aries' intimate world. Reconciliation and second chances are a real theme, especially for relationships strained by past misunderstanding. The early stabilization creates safe ground for honest conversations. January to March is an excellent window to address lingering issues with clarity and calm. If you approach those talks from a place of responsibility and listening rather than defensiveness, healing is likely. Singles may find a surprising connection in late spring to summer, someone who admires your agency and also asks you to slow down in healthy ways. That tension between speed and stability is the story. The person who complements Aries in 2026 is not a passive mirror, but someone who offers steadiness and shared goals. For committed Aries,
expect growth that looks practical, shared finances, joint plans, or a move toward deeper partnership roles. Small acts matter. Clear agreements about time, money, and household responsibilities will translate to greater emotional safety. Beware of rushing into symbolic big commitments, immense gestures, impulsive relocations, without the practical scaffolding underneath. Health and energy management. The fire horse is exhilarating, but it drains if not managed. For Aries, the key is establishing daily recovery rituals that become non-negotiable. This is not about radical overhauls. It's about anchor practices that preserve stamina. Morning, a short, consistent movement routine. Even 20 minutes of focused exercise or mobility work helps regulate adrenaline.
Midday, deliberate breaks for hydration, light walks, or breath work. Use them to reset momentum rather than to power through fatigue. Evening, wind down signals, limited screens before bed, a consistent sleep window, and a calming ritual that signals rest. Watch March and July as months when stress spikes could show in sleep disruption or elevated tension. In those periods, consider temporarily reducing high-energy social commitments and leaning into recovery. If persistent physical issues arise, consult a healthcare professional rather than relying solely on self-management. This script is for guidance, not diagnosis. Timing highlights. January to March, stabilization and consolidating income streams. Use this period to create buffers and document what's working. March to May, experimentation window. Test one new income stream or product with a small pilot. May to July, visibility and career momentum. Leverage network exposure. September to October, pivotal resource decisions. Larger opportunities or responsibilities may require careful evaluation. November to December, consolidation and setting systems for long-term sustainability. Tactical takeaway for Aries. Spot hidden resources. Audit small revenue streams and convert at least one into a predictable source. Prioritize disciplined risk-taking. Test promising ideas in low-cost pilots before scaling. Maintain emotional balance. Schedule daily recovery rituals and set boundaries around work energy. Imagine a case. Mara, an Aries content creator, had sporadic freelance income in 2025 and felt burned out chasing trends. In early 2026, she identified 3 reliable clients and saved the equivalent of 2 months' operating costs. In April, she launched a short paid workshop as a low-cost pilot. The workshop sold modestly but proved demand. By July, she negotiated a monthly retainer with one client and used the pilot's data to design a repeatable program. She didn't leap before the net was built, she engineered the leap. That's the firehorse principle in action. Small questions to keep you hooked. Which of your current income streams can you make predictable this quarter? What one radical but structured experiment can you run in spring? The answers are yours to shape, but the year supplies the fuel. Taurus, build the reserve, let persistence meet adaptation. For Taurus, the fire horse arrives as a rare friend. Steadiness is rewarded, and disciplined patience yields material gains. The image for Taurus is a field that's been patiently tended, suddenly showing buds of serious promise. The key word for 2026 is strategic. Gains come when persistence meets a willingness to adapt to new routes. Financial outlook. Taurus's year is about accumulation and sensible allocation. Early 2026 looks favorable for shoring up reserves. You'll likely notice incremental increases in your savings or investments, small, steady inflows that, when left alone, compound into meaningful security.
This is not an all-or-nothing boom. It's a year where conservative choices can outperform flashy risks. Around April through June, opportunities to diversify income streams can present themselves. These are not necessarily high-risk ventures, but sensible pivots, licensing a piece of your work, exploring a consultancy slot, or creating a passive product from existing skills. The trick is to vet these options against a conservative baseline. What's the downside, and how can you protect your core reserve while testing the upside? A caution for Taurus: comfort can become complacency. The fire horse requires some nimbleness. If you cling too tightly to the familiar, you may miss openings that reward slight flexibility. Consider setting aside a small opportunity fund specifically for low-cost experiments. This will make it psychologically easier to say yes when the right one appears. Career and influence. Where Aries is visibility, Taurus's professional story in 2026 is momentum through reliability. Employers and clients notice steady delivery, and by mid-year, you may be offered roles that come with responsibility and stability, permanent positions, leadership of ongoing projects, or longer-term contracts. Persistence becomes capital. The history of your consistency wins you trust. Yet influence also grows when Taurus learns to articulate value in modern terms. If your skill set or product lives in a traditional format, think about translation into contemporary channels, a workshop, a short course, or a digital offering that leverages your expertise. That translation can unlock passive returns without forcing you to adopt wild novelty. Timing cues to watch: late spring, May-June for career shifts that bring stability, and September for negotiations where your track record gives you leverage. If a promotion or renewed contract is on the table, prepare metrics and examples that show sustained impact. This is the language that turns history into bargaining power. At this point, Taurus's career segment continues with concrete negotiation tips and examples that illustrate the path from consistency to structural gains. Prepare metrics and examples that show sustained impact. This is the language that turns history into bargaining power. When you enter a negotiation, frame your story with numbers, a 3-point snapshot of consistent results, the exact time frame those results cover, and a clear ask tied to a measurable outcome. For instance, present last year's client retention rate, the average revenue per project, and the specific responsibility you're seeking with a proposed performance metric. That combination of steady track record plus a concrete forward-looking metric will make you sound both dependable and future-focused, precisely the impression Taurus needs to convert persistence into structural gain. Relationships and emotional life. Taurus's relational life in 2026 is practical and potentially tender.
Long-standing partnerships are poised for maturation. The year asks multiple Taurians to move from romance as feeling into romance as shared project. Think of love as a joint ledger. Small, regular deposits of time and clarity build long-term trust. If you're partnered, conversations about money, living arrangements, or role expectations may take center stage around late spring and again in early fall. Approach these talks as cooperative design sessions rather than confrontations. Bring proposals, not ultimatums. Singles may meet someone through steady, interest-based channels, a class, a professional group, or a project that requires recurring collaboration. These connections are less likely to be love-at-first-sight fireworks and more likely to be dependable matches that reward time and mutual bandwidth. Beware the temptation to cling to comfort. When an attractive but unfamiliar option appears in summer, test it with curiosity rather than automatic rejection. A caution for emotional pacing. Taurians often carry the instinct to wait it out, which serves you well many years. In 2026, however, waiting can mean missing windows where slight flexibility would produce durable gains. Consider scheduling one practical date night each month that centers conversation on future planning rather than grievances, a small discipline that converts softness into security. Health and energy management. Taurian's engine runs on routine, and 2026 rewards maintenance. The fire horse will push toward action, but your stamina is the resource that makes results sustainable. Prioritize a baseline routine that preserves physical resources without demanding high drama. Morning, a consistent protein-focused breakfast, and a 10 to 15-minute mobility or strength sequence to keep joints and posture strong. Midday, 2 short movement breaks, and a clear boundary for work lunch to avoid energy dips. Evening, wind down habits that cue restful sleep, dim lights, a fixed sleep window, and a simple stretching sequence. Watch April-June as a period where your energy investments pay off. The small daily habits you erect in spring will compound into measurable resilience by summer. September is a month to watch for decisions that demand both stamina and presence. Negotiations, project launches, or family logistics may require you to keep your baseline energy intact. If you notice creeping stiffness, ongoing fatigue, or recurring aches, consider consulting a healthcare professional for targeted support. This script is guidance, not medical diagnosis. Timing highlights. January to March, strengthen reserves and document steady results. Use this period to build a silent foundation you can draw on later. April to June, diversification window. Pilot one low-cost passive income stream or translate a legacy skill into a modern format. September, negotiation and leverage. Use documented performance to secure stable terms.
November-December, consolidation and quiet planning. Protect gains and plan next year allocations. Tactical takeaway for Taurus. Plan for the long game. Create a conservative opportunity fund. Translate one core skill into a passive or semi-passive product, and maintain daily routines that preserve stamina. Consider the example of Ethan, a Taurus small business owner. In 2025, he had rhythmic, modest profits, but never built a buffer. In January 2026, he formalized an opportunity fund equal to 2 months of fixed expenses and set brief monthly targets to build it. In April, he repurposed a workshop he'd taught for years into a recorded mini-course, investing only a few $100s into production. By September, inquiries for bulk licensing turned the mini-course into a steady small income stream that didn't require Ethan to trade his time for every dollar. He moved with patience, then adapted when the right leverage appeared. Gemini. Turn speed into systems. Learn fast. Scale slowly. Gemini's fire horse here hums with possibility. Where Aries confronts structure and Taurus accumulates, Gemini must convert motion into architecture, take the natural speed of ideas and outfit them with systems that keep momentum from burning out. Expect bursts of opportunity, sudden invitations to collaborate, and creative openings that reward quick learning. The strategic task is to slow just enough to make your wins repeatable. Financial outlook. Money for Gemini in 2026 is likely to arrive through flexibility and applied learning. Early in the year, you may receive small, scattered inflows from side projects, consulting, or one-off gigs. These are signals. If you can capture the underlying patterns and standardize them, you create recurring income. Think of early 2026 as a pattern recognition phase. Take notes, record what clients request most, and experiment with packaging those requests into a product or retainer. By late spring through summer, opportunities for monetizing skills in new ways become stronger. Perhaps a short webinar, a serialized content product, or a bundled service offering resonates with an audience. The fire horse favors speed, so rapid prototyping can reveal market appetite quickly. The counterbalance is to avoid launching full scale until you have at least one repeatable sale or a subscription-style commitment. Financial caution for Gemini. The temptation to chase every bright idea is real. Instead, adopt a rule. Commit to no more than 2 experiments at a time, instead of 3-month evaluation metric for each. That discipline helps match creative breadth with economic depth. Reserve at least 1 month's basic expenses as a buffer before committing to larger launches, and consider consulting a financial planner if you're channeling irregular income into long-term obligations. Career and influence. Professionally, Gemini can expect recognition for nimble thinking and novel communication.
Roles that ask you to translate complex ideas into accessible formats, teaching, marketing strategy, product storytelling, are favorable. Network openings may arrive through conversations that start casually and become strategic. Treat informal invites as potential pipelines, and follow up with concise proposals after the first positive signal. Between May and July, your voice may carry further. Podcast appearances, guest articles, or speaking slots can increase visibility. Convert exposure into authority by collecting and curating social proof, testimonials, shareable case studies, or short clips showing applied results. Late summer and early fall could bring offers that require you to steward attention, editorial opportunities, recurring columns, or a role that depends on your consistent presence. The fire horse gives the spark. Systems, content calendars, delegated production tasks, simple CRM tools turn it into sustained influence. Relationship and emotional life. Gemini's emotional arc in 2026 is about depth by way of curiosity. Quick connections are easy for Gemini, but the year asks you to invest attention so relationships mature beyond surface charm. For singles, a likely pattern is meeting someone through a shared interest or community event. The promising matches here are those who reward intellectual play and emotional availability. Try scheduling a few longer conversations, rather than rapid-fire texting, to see whether ideas and values align. For those in partnerships, the theme is bargaining for rhythms, negotiating how time, creative energy, and household labor are shared. Mid-year conversations about boundaries and schedules can prevent small resentments from escalating. If conflict surfaces in late spring, lean into clarifying needs rather than rehashing past slights. Your agile mind can be a gift here if it's used to model empathy rather than to out-argue. Health and energy management. Gemini thrives when the mind and body are synced. The fire horse will accelerate thinking. Intentional practices that slow cognition enough to recover are essential. Establish micro-rest rituals that fit your restless temperament. Short midday meditations, walking meetings, or alternating focused work sprints with brief restorative pauses. Morning, a short grounding routine, hydration, a 2-minute breath exercise, and a focused to-do list that prioritizes 3 tasks. Midday, a walking break, and a simple mobility routine to prevent tension from accumulating. Evening, a digital curfew, and a short journaling habit to offload mental loops. Watch February to April for opportunities to learn or reposition. Enroll in a short skill-building course or commit to a weekly learning hour. August to October is a period where overcommitment could spike. If you notice cortisol symptoms or sleep disruption in those months, scale back and preserve baseline recovery. For persistent issues, seek professional healthcare guidance.
Timing highlights. January through March, pattern recognition. Document income signals and client requests. May through July, visibility and prototypes. Test one product or offering and measure responses. August through October, guard against overcommitment. Use this period to select which experiments to scale. November through December, stabilize the successful experiments into recurring streams. Tactical takeaway for Gemini. Act quickly, but design repeatability. Run 2 disciplined experiments only, collect repeatable metrics, and convert at least one into a monthly subscription or retainer. Consider Lena, a Gemini consultant. She spent 2025 hopping between one-off gigs and feeling creatively fulfilled but financially scattered. In January 2026, she documented client requests and found repeatable demand for brief strategy audits. She designed a 90-minute audit product, launched it as a pilot in March with a small price and limited slots, and used the feedback to refine a monthly retainer plan. By September, she had converted 2 audit clients into a monthly advisory retainer that offered more predictable income and allowed her freedom to keep experimenting creatively. Short comparative context. Across the zodiac, the fire horse lights different chambers. Some signs will feel its chaotic spark more than others. Scorpio may find deep restructuring and strategic advancement. Libra could receive tactical months filled with negotiations and micro-decisions. But for Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, the theme is consistent. Decisive moments paired with practical systems. Where other signs are experiencing broad shifts, your task is to translate momentum into sustainable forms. How to ride the fire horse. 3 universal actions. First, set 3 priorities and align actions weekly. Choose 1 financial, 1 career, and 1 well-being priority for the quarter. Break each into weekly micro-actions. For finance, a 30-minute audit and a savings target. For career, 1 outreach or piece of content. For well-being, a daily anchor habit. The fire horse rewards focus. By narrowing, you concentrate combustible energy into meaningful outcomes rather than scattering it across distractions. Second, convert at least 1 risky idea into a small planned experiment. Design experiments with clear entry and exit rules, a fixed budget, a time box, for example 90 days, and measurable criteria for success. For Aries, that might mean piloting a paid group offer with 3 beta clients. For Taurus, creating a passive mini product from an existing service. For Gemini, launching a small priced audit or workshop and measuring conversion rates. Treat experiments as data-gathering missions. Wins are great, but insights matter most. Third, schedule recovery rituals and implement a baseline routine. Identify practices that restore you. A 20-minute morning movement for Aries, a monthly restorative day for Taurus, a daily 5-minute journaling and breathing pause for Gemini.
Lock these into your calendar and defend them as non-negotiable. The fire horse amplifies risk-taking. Your recovery rituals are the safety harness that keeps you from falling when momentum accelerates. Practical examples in many templates. A. Weekly priority template. Choose 1 headline metric for each priority: income target, outreach number, sleep hours. Then assign a single measurable micro-action per day that supports that metric. At week's end, review 3 simple questions: what moved, what stalled, and what I will change. B. Experiment blueprint. Name the idea, set the hypothesis, cap the investment, and define the success metric. Example: hypothesis, a 90-minute paid audit will convert 20% to a monthly retainer. Investment cap, $300. Time box, 90 days. Success metric, 2 retainer signups. If metric is hit, scale. If not, archive learnings. C. Recovery rule. Identify 2 anchor practices, 1 physical, 1 mental, and schedule them daily. Physical might be a 12 to 20-minute movement session. Mental might be a 5-minute evening brain dump. Treat them as appointments. A final cinematic nudge. Visualize the fire horse beneath you, not as a creature to be controlled, but as a powerful ally that invites you to decide the direction. Your role is not to be consumed by speed, but to be the rider who chooses which pasture to cross. The cosmos may light the match, but the work of building the lantern, the path, and the safe crossing is yours. Climax and affirmation. 2026 will be loud. It will ask you to choose. For Aries, that means stabilizing newfound momentum with careful systems so that opportunity becomes legacy.
For Taurus, it means letting perseverance meet adaptation to convert steady gains into structural security. For Gemini, it means turning nimble intelligence into repeatable processes that reward both creativity and income. Big decisions will present themselves like doorways set into a wall of flame. Not every doorway must be entered, but some are critical thresholds. Choose with courage, but choose with plans beneath your feet. One closing image. The fire horse does not carry you to a preordained fate. It gives you propulsion. The difference between a momentary burst and a life-shaping year is the scaffolding you build while the flames are alive. Stack small disciplines, test with humility, and guard your energy. Final call to action. If this forecast landed for you, grab the one-page 2026 Firehorse checklist pinned in the description to map your priorities and timing windows for the year ahead. Use it to sketch 3 priorities, design 1 experiment, and lock in your recovery rituals. Then ride with intention.